Strategy comes from the Greek strategos, meaning the art of the general, or literally, military leader. The primary influence on strategy is that ideas about action are influenced by views about how the world works, such that the success or failure of strategy is rooted in the strategist's ability to perceive the mechanics of the world and have them acted out correctly. The word strategy came into use during the Enlightenment, reflected in its interpretation that the world could be much more predictable and therefore controllable, meaning they thought that the science of human affairs, of which strategy is an element, could be built on the science of natural affairs. This reveals the prevailing impulse behind strategy to make the future more in your control, especially over those with whom you're in competition with. An important idea about strategy came during the Enlightenment, the idea of the decisive battle, that is, to win in such a way that the enemy is at your mercy, and that in such a situation the politics will result from the military completely. More pithily, win the battle, win the war. The problem with the idea of the decisive battle is revealed in the problem of revolutionaries. Because the gap between where they are and where they want to be is so large, revolutionaries think about strategy more than anyone else. The mistake among many revolutionaries constantly make is to view the revolution's success as a decisive event. So fixated on achieving revolution, they are unprepared for the discrepancies between the new system and the one they inherited, and the frustrations therein. Thus, the problem of the decisive battle is revealed. The struggle continues after successful battle. It doesn't guarantee the goal is met, and often the victory is viewed on with hindsight as being not as decisive as first thought, when the supposed victor is later overcome. Condensed, the Enlightenment view is that after setting a goal, through clever thought, you can plan a strategy all the way to a decisive completion. Now, it is misleading and disappointing to follow the Enlightenment view of controlling future events, because strategy is not necessarily a plan. No plan survives contact with the enemy. The reason planning isn't so good is revealed in the difference between an engineering problem and a strategic problem. In an engineering problem, all the variables can be understood and quantified, so it can be overcome through experimentation and clever thought. In a strategic problem, someone is trying to frustrate you. For example, we can't guarantee defense against missiles, yet we can land man on the moon, largely because the moon isn't trying to fight back. Because it's so difficult to plan to victory, especially against someone who's capable, the strong will usually win. This is seen in most modern wars as they're wars of attrition over decisiveness. Because the strong usually win, the question is raised: under what circumstances can the strong be overcome? When can the underdog win? Conveniently, perhaps the most well-known underdog story, David and Goliath, reveals the problems with being the underdog. Quick refresher: the Philistine and Israelite armies meet. The Philistines are much stronger. The Philistines produce a 2 to 3 meter tall warrior Goliath, and the Israelites produce a shepherd David, where David uses a sling and pebble to perfectly hit Goliath in the head. Goliath collapses, then David cuts Goliath's head off with his own sword. Now, ignoring the biblical implications of the story, we can see that the logistics must be much more precise for the underdog, and the number of chances are minimal. Their timing and precision must be perfect. If David's aim and timing with the sling were off by really any amount, he would have died and the Philistines would have attacked. Very importantly, the underdog can only do this once. If the Philistines came back, their new champion would at least have a better helmet to protect against small slung rocks. This is the problem of the trickster. There are limits to cunning and deception. So when does the underdog win practically? To answer this, we'll first look at the study of chimpanzees. When a male chimp challenges the alpha, he is rarely stronger. Rather, this weaker chimp has allied himself with partners. To help him fight the alpha. He has formed coalitions. A tangent. in coalitions, empathy is key. Not to say participants need to be hugely emotional, rather that they need to observe the theory of the mind. The way someone behaves depends on the way they think. This is another way of saying my first point about the influence of strategy being how worldviews warp perceptions about actions, although the empathy statement ignores a crucial part of that. Not just that someone's actions give direction to what their worldview is, but more important is the understanding of what they expected to be the outcome of the action and how to execute it. End of tangent. Coalitions are the first of two things the underdog needs to overcome the stronger opponent. The second is to survive. The importance of endurance is to bide time for opportunities. Observation of the two components needed for the underdog to win, coalitions and endurance, are seen in Winston Churchill. Churchill refused to negotiate peace surrender, rather choosing to survive for now as victory was possible, and if necessary to surrender when no options remained. Then he allied with the United States, and after Hitler issued his declaration of war on the United States, Churchill remarked, "So we had won after all." A lot of strategy is about surviving. Through this introduction to strategy, we can observe that the popular understanding of what strategy is not complete. The popular understanding is that strategy is about setting out your objectives and working out how to achieve them. There's a relationship between ends and means, but ends define what you try to do. To gain a more complete understanding of strategy, we'll note that in practice, strategies are set by problems in the here and now, and that strategy is about getting to a better place than you're in right now and would be without it. The initial objectives are unlikely to be ultimate objectives. It's about what you can do to overcome the problems you face in the moment. So the first shift in understanding strategy is that strategy is about going from where you are to a better position. Beyond this, don't get fixated on the ultimate objectives. You don't reach ultimate objectives. This relates to the idea of the decisive battle. You only win to a point. So in accordance with a shifting environment, so too must your objectives shift. So the second shift in understanding strategy is that strategy doesn't stop. I'll condense this. Strategy is not a plan with a definite end. Instead, it is a response to a changing environment where possibilities open and close constantly, with new problems arising requiring you to think through what you can do to get into a better position repeatedly. I'll end with this. Campaigns don't end up where they aimed at the start. Things happen. And to quote Eisenhower, plans are useless, but planning is essential. Meaning, plans enable clear and concise thinking about what you're doing in the situation, but they don't give you control over the future. Alright, that concludes the first of hopefully many videos on this channel. Let me know what you think so far. I'm going to do a series on the 36 stratagems of war, so subscribe to get those when they come out. If you like this, I'm sure you'll love them.